All right, I am going to share a video with all of you. It's an Israeli video, so it's the artist is Israeli, so the song is in Hebrew, and that means that likely most of us will not know what all the words mean, and that's okay. I'll talk a little bit more about it once we fully get started, but for now, just sit back and enjoy the music and the art.
דע לך שכל עשב ועשב יש לו מלאך טוב שאומר לו גדל, אבל דע יש שמלאך נרדם, יש שריפות ביער, יש עשב שוטה ואכזבת מלאך בוצרת את הערוגה. דע, 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 ישנים שכונות עוברות בשדה כמו חרמש, תנים משתופפים בתבואה נדרסת. יש שכאבי גדילה מציבים את הירק, ואם הגבעול מתגבה התהייה, אולי מוטב היה להישאר כאן. פחות היה מישהו ירד כמו טל שהבוקר בקע מציוצי הלפנות לחש לך גדל, 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 גדל.
Welcome, everyone. I know many of you arrived as our opening video was playing. That video is a song called Da. The word is Da, and it is by an Israeli artist. His name is Shai Tzabari. And I wanted to share it with you tonight because I wanted to share, actually, the words with you. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the song begins, Da lecha shekol esev ve'esev yesh lo malach tov she'omer lo gedal. You should know that each and every weed has its own good angel cheering it on, saying to it, grow. This image comes from a midrash, a story that teaches that every blade of grass has an individual divine cheerleader. It teaches us beautifully that God is rooting for every living thing, down to the blades of grass in our yards. But then the song continues. You should also know there is an angel who falls asleep. There are fires in the forest. There is a wild weed, and the disappointment of an angel harvests the flower bed. Sometimes the growing pains turn the vegetables yellow. And with the stem rises a pondering, perhaps it would have been better to remain a bulb. Perhaps it would have been better to remain a bulb. How many times in this past year have we each wanted to remain a bulb? How many times have we wished we could curl up in a ball and hide underground for a while? How many fires and wild weeds and growing pains have we faced? This past year has been like none other. Isolation, loss, fear, the racial reckoning of last summer, and the political changes over the winter. It's been a lot. And the words of this song, Da, acknowledge all of that pain and sadness. Listen, the words say, sometimes angels fall asleep and the world turns upside down and all growth looks like pain and destruction. But then the song continues. Aval da, yesh malach. But you should know there is an angel, or at least there was. Someone will come down like dew when the morning emerges from the twittering of beforehand, whispering to you, grow. We are here tonight to be each other's dew, to whisper to each other, grow. We are here to begin to reconnect, to rebuild, and to process and to make meaning of this last year. Tonight is only the first step in this process of listening and learning from each other about the issues that sit heavy on our hearts. At the end of this night, we will ask each of you, along with the entire congregation, to participate in our listening campaign, to gather in groups of 8 to 10 people, either in person or on Zoom, for what we call house meetings, opportunities for intentional conversations about how this year has affected us and what we might choose to do as a community to bring justice to a world in such deep disrepair. You'll hear more about that later, but for now, I want to hand it over to Nicole, who hit the ground running as our social justice outreach coordinator less than 2 months ago and has already surpassed all expectations, and without whose tireless work this campaign would simply not be possible.
Thank you, Rabbi Class. That was a beautiful way to start this evening. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight as we kick off our 2020 listening campaign. I want to give a special thanks to the team that has helped put this night together with incredible leadership and guidance from Rabbi Class. Sandy Altschuler, Jill Blumenthal, Rebecca Drexel, Noah Grenade, Betsy House, Matt Kelly, Ruth Portis, Stephanie Starr, and Brittany Yoho. You will hear from many of them tonight and throughout the listening campaign. Here's what you can expect in the next hour. First, Stephanie is going to spend a few minutes talking to you about the goals of this evening and the listening campaign as a whole. After that, you will hear from a couple of your fellow congregants who have agreed to share their stories of their experiences over the past year and how it has brought them here tonight. Next, Rabbi Class will engage us all in an online activity where we'll each have a moment to reflect on our experience of the pandemic. After that time of reflection, each participant will be put in a breakout room with 3 to 4 others for only a few minutes, I promise. Don't freak out. During that time, you'll have an opportunity to share and communicate what you learned during the previous exercise, and then you'll be brought back to the larger group. At that point, Jill Blumenthal will talk to you about where we go from here. This is just the beginning of the larger listening campaign, and there are so many ways to get involved. Jill will walk you through each of them, and you can decide what's the best fit for you. Lastly, we will hear from Rabbi Knight about the importance of this campaign to Temple Beth El and the larger community. Before you leave, you will have the opportunity to fill out a Google form asking for your commitment and participation. It's a lot, we know, and we promise we will be succinct. So please enjoy this evening and participate fully. At the end of the program, when you have the opportunity to sign up, please do so and commit to contributing to this process with us in one of the ways Jill will outline. Thank you again for being here tonight.
Hi, everybody. As you can see from my box there, my name is Stephanie Starr, and I have been connected with Temple Beth El for 6 years. I am a member now of the Listening Campaign Core Planning Team, and we are so glad that you've taken the time to join us tonight. Each of us have experienced the pandemic differently, but many of us have not had the opportunity to connect with our Temple community, to share our stories and those experiences and how they've influenced us. So we see tonight as a chance to begin reconnecting with others in our Temple community, an opportunity to inspire you all to participate in the listening campaign, and a time to ensure that you know what the next steps are for participation in that campaign. After tonight, our goals for the listening campaign are, most importantly, to bring people together, to share our stories, and to begin the process to process the pandemic experience. We also want to ensure that your voices are included as we learn together what 2020 has taught us and how those lessons might inspire us to build a better community, both internally and throughout Charlotte. I know that for me, the pandemic has brought to light a number of disparities that I was not aware of before seeing the impact of the pandemic on certain populations. So after sharing our stories, we hope to identify issues that matter to us. And finally, through the listening campaign, we want to develop a shared vision for how to address the issues that we care most about in our greater Charlotte community. Again, thank you for being here tonight. It's good to see so many familiar faces and to begin those connections and storytelling.
So as Stephanie just articulated so clearly, at their core, listening campaigns are about story sharing. And so we've invited 2 of your fellow Temple Beth El members to model just that. First, Claire Cruche will share her COVID-19 story and the way the pandemic has impacted her life. And then Betsy House will talk about how her experience of the pandemic has propelled her toward social justice work. Claire, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can.
One more time.
Yeah, one
You
more time.
unmuted, but then you remuted. There you go.
Okay, it keeps flashing on and off, so. Okay, let's hope this works. Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Cruche, and this is my story. 101 days and then some. On March 4th, 2020, I boarded a flight to Newark, New Jersey for an 11-day visit with my 93-year-old mom. This was nothing unusual since I visited her every 4 months. The first few days of the visit, there was much reporting about a COVID-19 outbreak in New Rochelle, New York, and how quickly people who attended a party there were getting seriously ill. I wasn't that concerned. After all, from where I was sitting, New Rochelle wasn't that close by. Yet each night, news reporter David Muir would give alarming updates on this virus. A doctor by the name of Tony Fauci was introduced into our homes. I remember being just a little scared as he warned us that this virus was very deadly, especially for the elderly and people over 65. Of course, that included my mom. And then it dawned on me, Alan and I are both over 65. 14 days after I arrived in New Jersey, my mom's memory care center went into lockdown on March 18th. Airports were jam-packed, flights were overbooked, and it looked like I'd be stuck in New Jersey for an extra few weeks until things got back to normal. Normal, that word, normal. I visited my mom through her bedroom window. I would touch the cold glass outside with my lips to give her a kiss on the other side of that glass window. Things escalated rapidly. 28 days after I arrived in New Jersey on April 1st, someone had tested positive in the memory care center. My mom got tested April 7th. The test came back positive April 10th. And by April 16th, just 43 days after I arrived from my usual visit with my mom, she became one of the first to die of COVID in the small township of Greenbrook, New Jersey. We had to wait 6 days for a funeral due to the large amount of deaths, but this was nothing compared to what was happening 26 miles away in New York City. The 11-day visit turned into my mother's funeral and the cleaning out my childhood home. I returned to Charlotte 101 days later. I kept wondering, when would things get back to normal? That word, normal. But summer 2020 had just arrived, and in late June, my husband tested positive for COVID-19. I quickly learned about peripheral ground glass in the lungs. I learned about markers, oxygen levels, and fevers that went up and down like a dial on the radio. I was home dealing with loss. I had a very sick husband in ICU, and boom, I didn't need a test to know that I too had COVID-19. It felt like I had been run over by a truck. Really? This is our new normal? I prayed, I cried, I slept, and repeated it day after day. Word got out. People called. Our dear rabbis called. Dinners, flowers, Gatorade, cookies, cards were left at my front door. This was community. This was my family caring for me. I was overcome with gratitude and awe for such loving gestures. Rabbi Dusty asked me if I would like Alan's name included on the part of the Misha Barak prayer of healing. I said yes. And his fellow congregants saw his name week after week. People would call us to check in. Alan and I both recovered, but so many others did not. And we just honored my mother's first yahrzeit just last week. I don't even know what normal is anymore, but I do know this. Our community, this congregation that we call Temple Bethel, was our saving grace during a time when nothing was normal. Thank you.
Claire, thank you so much for sharing.
You're
I know
welcome.
so many people who have experienced pieces of loss and pieces of fear, and you articulated so well so many experiences that I know people in this room have had. So thank you for the courage to share.
You're welcome.
Betsy has a very different story, but equally important, so I'll invite her to share now.
Thank you. Over this past year, I have felt so many things: thankful, privileged, lucky, guilty, and powerless. During the pandemic, every Wednesday morning, I went on a run with a friend. One week, I took her on a route through my neighborhood. She said, "This is so nice to be running on back roads." She told me she only runs on major roads because she's not comfortable running through neighborhoods. She's afraid to run on back roads. She's afraid to run on back roads because she is Black. Her statement hit me hard. I never imagined that someone that lives around the corner from me, who has 2 master's degrees, is a mother like me, and is an incredibly accomplished professional. I never imagined that it could be unsafe for her to run on back roads. This is just not right. During the pandemic, my kids have been home for the majority of the year learning virtually. And I've been lucky enough because I've been able to stay home with them, get them up in the morning, get them breakfast, and make sure they're logging on to school. Just 2.5 miles from my house lives a little girl I used to mentor. She lives with her mom and 5 siblings. I've kept in touch with her social worker, trying to see what we could do during the pandemic to help, but there was very little that we could. The kids only logged on when the social worker stopped by, which was once a week. She and her 5 siblings will be a year behind in learning. 2020 was bad for everyone and horrific for some. I am beyond thankful that my family and I had the means to adjust, pivot, adapt, all the verbs people with privilege use to show how they persevered this past year. Others have not had those privileges. In participating in this campaign, I have chosen to move on from sadness, anxiety, frustration. I am proud to be part of an organization and a community that believes enough is enough. The Jewish people know what it is like to fight for one another. We have a history of also standing side by side with the oppressed. Our time is now. My friend needs us. My mentee and her family need us. Silence is compliance. Marginalized communities need aggressive, passionate, and devoted allies. It's our time to step up, because if we don't, who will?
Thank you so much, Betsy. So we wanted to also give all of you the chance to share your story tonight, but we know that that would in fact take all night. So we're going to instead invite you to share using an online tool called Menti that allows us to share lots of people's words all at once. So the prompt we want you to respond to is describe your experience of the pandemic in 6 words or less. You can think about that for a second. Describe your experience of the pandemic in 6 words or less. So there's a couple ways to participate in Menti. The first is to click on the link that has just arrived in the chat box. That'll take you to the web page directly, and then you fill in your answer and it will show up on the screen just a moment when I start sharing my screen. So that's option 1 if you're able to shift over and click through to the link. The second option, if you have a second device, if you're on your computer but you also have your phone with you, or if you're on your phone but you have your computer with you, you can go to www.menti.com. That's also in the chat box, and enter the numbers 31206470. And that will take you to the question as well. And if all of those things are super confusing and you want to participate, but you do not feel like dealing with all the technology pieces, you can find Matthew Kelly in the chat box and send him a private message with your 6 words, and he will make sure your words get into the Menti. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can show you what has popped up already. So describe your experience of the pandemic in 6 words or less. A blessing and a curse. Transformational, constant stress, isolation, touch-starved. Exhausting, painful, soul-depleting. Cozy, terrifying, shocking, numbing. Up and down, then again. A bizarre time warp in our lifetime that I have not quite been able to process. 6+ words, perhaps. Lonely, sad, anger. Survived COVID, much alone time. Burnt out, privileged, anxious, safe, and lucky. Lonely, creative, a lot of work, family. Unknown, fear, stress, isolating, opportunity. We have been longing to see our children and grandchildren. End of days. Loving community. And if, as these are bringing up additional words, you're welcome to enter more than one response into the chat. Grateful but anxious. We finally got a cat. healthy, thankful, privileged. Scared, grateful for Zoom, or maybe scared, grateful for Zoom. Lack of technology, hunger, safety checks. Grateful for relationships and little things. I felt powerless, transformational, chance to get close to Judaism, grateful, anxiety. Gift of time. I don't know. Thankful for contact. Lucky, grateful. Weight loss. More disparity. Boring, terrifying, freeing, aggravating, comforting. BLM awareness. Black Lives Matter. Lonely, grateful, ease into retirement. Respite from a commute. Hard work. I'm gonna let it scroll for just one more minute. And I'm gonna leave this up actually, Rebecca, and invite you to tell everybody what we're doing next, and we'll let it scroll while you're talking.
Okay, thank you. So in a few moments now, we're going to be sending each of you into breakout rooms. There'll be a few households together. It's just going to be a short period of connection and some time for reflection. Please take a minute now to think about something that surprised you in the responses to the question that was asked in the previous exercise. So that Rabbi's got those still scrolling in front of you. In the breakout room, you will have 5 minutes to discuss. You will see a pop-up timer letting you know when 1 minute is left, and when the time is up, you will automatically be returned to this larger group. Make sure to introduce yourselves, and please give everyone a chance to share. Again, your discussion topic is share one thing that popped up in the Menti exercise that surprised you and why. If nothing surprised you, that's something to discuss too. Natalie, if you'll please open the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Welcome back. I hope you were able to spend a few minutes connecting with one another. As Nicole has highlighted, as Nicole and Rabbi Klass mentioned at the beginning of the hour, tonight is only the first step in the process. The next step is where all of you come in. Between now and mid-June, we intend to hold 35 to 40 house meetings to enable you to connect further with each other and give us a chance to gather data around our shared experiences. Our goal is to include at least 360 people or members from 180 households, which is about 20% of our congregation in this campaign. You will have the opportunity to choose whether you would like to participate in person or via Zoom. There are a number of ways to participate. One is you can host the house meeting. You can do this either physically at your home, subject to COVID protocols, or via Zoom. By volunteering to do this, you will be responsible for inviting the participants, and this can be either people of your choosing, or we can help find guests. Coordinating the time and place for the meeting and providing the directions if the meeting is in person, a place to connect and converse. It's that easy. We are here to help you every step of the way. We can help you set up the Zoom and recruit people for the meeting if necessary. You can use an already existing group, your tribe, your Shabbat supper club, brotherhood or sisterhood, or just your friends, and gather together to have these conversations. If that feels like more than you can commit to, please sign up to attend a house meeting. Again, you will have the opportunity to attend an in-person socially distant meeting or a virtual meeting via Zoom according to your comfort level. To attend a house meeting, your role is to arrive on time, participate fully in the discussion according to the guidelines set out at the beginning of the conversation, and talk to your friends and encourage them to sign up as well. Some of you have participated in our past listening campaigns and are trained to facilitate. If you can do that, please sign up to do so. If you have never facilitated a house meeting, but it sounds interesting to you, please sign up as well, and we will give you all the information you need. To facilitate, you first need to coordinate a mutually agreeable time and place with the host. Then, during the house meeting, using guidelines we provide you, you will help to guide the conversation to make sure we are truly getting the information we need for a successful listening campaign. Regardless of what role you choose, please participate in some way. This is an important initiative with support from the board, clergy, and lay leaders as we embark on a soon-to-be post-pandemic world and what that means for our congregation and our city. Thank you for being here tonight. Now, Rabbi Knight will tell you the next steps to get involved and wrap up our evening.
You think I've never, pressed unmute before, but I promise you I have. It is good to see everyone here and to see, as I sort of look around and to see all the faces and, to be able to sort of hear, at least in the breakout group that I was in, some of the stories that are so powerful and meaningful and impactful to each and every person. For years at Temple Bethel, we've engaged in justice work. And for years at Temple Bethel, we've engaged in that work by building relationships within our congregation and in our community through listening, through working across lines of difference, and by taking action. This past year has truly highlighted for so many people an incredibly painful truth. One is that we've been in this, what I've been calling sort of a long emergency, right? This lengthy experience that has been like an emergency for a very long time. And we've been going through this long emergency in a storm, but we've navigated that storm sometimes in vastly different boats. My family, for example, is dealing with young children, right? Others who are individuals have been dealing with a sense of aloneness. Some people have dealt with illnesses. Some people have dealt with sort of COVID adjacent illnesses. Some people have dealt with, businesses that have collapsed, right? And each of us have gone through this experience, this long emergency, but really through so many different ways. And it's highlighted for us that we need to do a lot of listening and rebuilding a relationship. The social fabric of our community and our not just our congregation, but the broader community has frayed so much. And we really need to do the work of reweaving the social fabric that is going to be powerful and powerfully important. Over a year ago on March 23rd, just really weeks into the pandemic, an article made its way through the news cycle that was titled, "That Discomfort That You're Feeling Is Grief." And in it, a disaster expert, David Kessler, articulated the loss and grief that we are all only beginning to feel that time. And he reminded readers of the sort of 5 well-known components of grief, right? That there's denial and anger and bargaining and depression, and then perhaps acceptance. And he offered a 6th stage as well. And that is meaning. And we all have been in this process of trying to create meaning out of this year. And Kessler argues that to give something meaning can actually be empowering and motivating. To find meaning is to find purpose and to find drive. A little more than a year later, many of us are really still grieving. I met with people today in multiple meetings who are in tears over what this experience has been this last year for them. And we've also begun to find ways to make meaning, to discover the experiences of the past year for the lessons that they have given us, the things that we want to take forward, both for ourselves and our families and our society. We want to know what you experienced and how we can take a collective lessons that we have learned as a community to come together in partnership with communities all across Charlotte to design the next phase of our social justice work. In the chat box, in a moment, you're going to find a link to a Google form. And I want to thank Ruth Portis for creating the form, which is always, complicated for those of us who are technologically challenged. So thank you, Ruth. But take a moment right now to click on the link or paste it into your web browser and just complete the form. You're going to have an opportunity to sign up, participate in the listening campaign in whatever way that you feel most comfortable. And we'll be in touch with you in the next few days about what those next steps are. Include your name, include whether or not you're willing to participate, whether you're willing to facilitate, whether you're willing to host, and say what your preference are. Do you want to be on Zoom or indoors or outdoors, any which way, but we want you to participate and we want you to get involved. So take a moment right now to click the chat box or to click and to go to the link and to get involved in a way that is meaningful and will add meaning not only to your lives, but will help to reweave the social fabric of our congregation and the broader Charlotte community.
We're going to give you a moment or two to find your way to the form, to fill it out. And if you don't have a chance tonight, we will also be sending out the link to everyone who registered for tonight tomorrow, and we're going to send the link out to the entire congregation by the end of this week. And the more and sooner we have information from people, the better. So if you are able tonight is a really good time to actually click on the form and fill it out. And I'm going to close us out tonight. Rabbi Knight messaged me and said, "Are we ahead of schedule?" He was perhaps concerned that we missed something. We didn't miss something. We wanted to make sure you got exactly what you needed, and then that you got to have the rest of your evening. So we're going to let you back out into your evenings in just a moment. The form, for those who are looking for it, is right in the, if you click the link, the https tinyurl.com link that's in the chat box, that should send you to the form on whatever device you are on. But if it is scary to do that from where you are, Rabbi Knight has now made sure that you have all seen it. It is in the chat box many times.
Definitely there.
You can't miss it. And if you'd rather fill it out tomorrow, we'll have it tomorrow as well. But it will be wonderful for us to know kind of tonight, if possible, who we've got. And I'm going to give us all a chance to listen to the beautiful song that we heard coming in on our way out as well. So some of you heard me frame this before we arrived, and some of you arrived in the middle of the video. The Israeli artist Shai Tzabari, and his song is called Da, and the song speaks about what it means to know that we all have a little angel, a little divine cheerleader cheering for us, and that cheerleader sometimes falls asleep and the world turns upside down, but that there is an angel, and that angel is cheering you on and calling you to grow, and so are we all. And so we'll close tonight one more time with the words of Shai Tzabari. As soon as I make it happen.
דע לך שכל עשב ועשב יש לו מלאך טוב שאומר לו גדל, אבל די יש שמלאך נרדם, יש שרפות ביער, יש עשב שוטה ואכזבת מלאך בוצרת את הערוגה. דה 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 דה. ישנים שכונות עוברות בשדה כמו חרמש, תנים משתופפים בתבואה נדרסת. יש שכאבי גדילה מציבים את הירק, ואם הגבעול מתגבה התהייה, אולי מוטב היה להישאר כאן. אבל די יש מלאך, לכל הפחות היה מישהו ירד כמו טל שהבוקר בקע מציוצי הלפנות לחש לך גדל 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 גדל.
Thanks everyone so much. If you haven't signed up already, make sure to do that if you get a chance. And if you didn't yet and you leave before you're able to, be on the lookout for emails tomorrow that should have more information. And if you have signed up already, there will be more information coming about what will happen with your signups on Friday. And you are free to live the rest of your Tuesday night. Is it Tuesday still? It's still Tuesday, I think.